The Great Cleric is an Isekai light novel about Luciel, a dude that travels to another world and is so terrified of getting murdered, he holds himself up in the Adventurer's Guild to practice healing magic until, you guessed it, he's overpowered, which then catapults him into a fantasy quest to free dragons, clear dungeons, and meet allies. I'm sure this summary sounds kinda generic, and it would be disingenuous of me to say that the story isn't generic, but if I'm making a video about it, there's something worth talking about. And in the case of the Great Cleric, that has to be the fact that this is the Isekai formula condensed into its purest form. Just Isekai shenanigans firing on all cylinders while keeping any and all extra details to the minimum. It might make the series sound worse, but it's not. Trust me. Because The Great Cleric is a real straightforward Isekai story, but that's what makes it special. I'm talking as straightforward as humanly possible, an overbearing degree of straightforwardness. Isekai gets knocked for being simple, well this is simple to the nth degree, as void of extra fluff as possible. So straightforward, it honestly kinda takes skill. How's that supposed to make it special? Well, it wouldn't be if it didn't also have really concise, almost breakneck pacing. A big problem is introduced at the start of the problem, then leads to some discoveries that add to the world building. The journey to solve the problem is filled with character interactions and character development. The problem escalates, Luciel has to improvise, Luciel solves the problem, accepts solving the problem, then catapults him into the next problem in the next volume. This combination isn't impressive in and of itself. What's impressive is that the author manages to pull this off in the span of around 200 pages every single volume, which means all conflict starts and ends within 200 pages. Character interactions, character development, fight scenes, dramatic beats, training, growth, tragedy, happiness, romance. It all starts and ends in the span of 200 pages each volume. However, a short volume doesn't guarantee great quality, right? A short volume means less room for error. It means the build up to the big scenes is shorter. It means you get a limited amount of room to make each scene count. Does the author manage to do all of that? Yeah, he kind of does. Mainly by having a solid protagonist. Amusingly, the structure reflects the story itself. Luciel is a straightforward, simple dude. So simple and straightforward, he's probably one of the most charitable isekai protagonists out there. You see, Luciel learns healing magic, right? But he finds out that all the other healers are corrupt and charge out the ass to exploit the poor. Luciel, being a good dude, quickly becomes a walking free healthcare station for all citizens of any income bracket. When he gets relocated to Healer HQ, he reforms things, establishes a fair, affordable pricing system, and helps dig out the corruption. He then gets sent to a town that has absolutely no healing magic and establishes a brand new office while also renovating different buildings and providing job opportunities for citizens in the slums, improving the economy and in turn also the overall quality of life. Then he gets sent on a dungeon gauntlet to free a whole lot of dragons in lots of different places. The appeal of the Great Cleric is introducing a problem that seems fairly daunting and watching as Luciel proceeds to solve it in the span of a fairly short volume. Luciel himself is also amusing. Masterfully written, a perfect character, a complex character? No, not really. Just an amusing dude to watch. His approach to things is always, why me? I'm just a dude with healing powers. And just when you're wondering the same thing, you watch him get stuck in a boss chamber in a life of death fight with a skeleton knight for 6 months, getting repeatedly mutilated and reattaching his limbs with a fairly casual tone all the while. The funnest part of the series is Luciel doing all these legendary things while keeping the attitude that he really doesn't want to do any of it. And he doesn't say it with a braggadocious or humble attitude either, but with the attitude of a 40-year-old overworked, underpaid office worker that has had enough shit to deal with. So you combine a fun enough story, an endearing enough protagonist, and entertaining enough plot twists and developments, you smash them together with really concise breakneck pacing, you make it so everything has to wrap up within 200 pages each time, hence eliminating all downtime, hence eliminating most chances for boring developments, and what do you have? Well, you have a quick fix of isekai if you're an addict like me, but you also have a pretty fun casual read if you're, a normal person. Where do I put so much value on the story being as concise as possible? Well, if you read as much isekai as I do, then you gotta be aware of the fabled page implosion. Series that start in the 200 page range quickly increase in page count the longer they go on. I mean, the latest Overlord volume was close to 400 pages, and plenty of slime isekai volumes easily have page counts in that range as well. On the other side of the spectrum, you also have series that have ridiculous premises that gotta get explored every way possible. So then, inconsistency becomes the issue for those. Hence, why I appreciate a series that just sets a goal, sets a page limit, and sticks to those two things every single volume. Not to mention, it's just pretty impressive how the author trims stuff down so easily. People don't know this, but most writers, myself included, find it harder to write less than to write more. Because of overcompensation. So yeah, there you have it. The Great Cleric is a fun, simple, and short isekai series I would recommend if you're looking for something that will have you looking forward to, but not despairing about each new volume. I know this recommendation had a weird hook to it, but I can't help it. I admire this dude for writing so concisely. Hell, this whole Quickie series is all about writing concisely. Anyways, The Great Cleric is fun. Recommended if you have a weird, obsessive hyperfixation with effective story structures. In other words, probably just me. Yeah.